Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about Survivor players who dominated the early game, but who fell off at the merge. You know this player. It's one of my favorite genres. They're crushing the pre-merge, they're aligned with everyone, they've got their tribe's nuts in a vice grip. But at the merge, something just goes wrong, they're on the wrong side of a vote or two, and they never recover. It's the ultimate hero to zero, and fittingly, these players often end up as zero-vote goats at Final Tribal Council. Today, I thought it would be fun to look back at some of the most famous and notorious players who ran their tribe pre-merge, but who lost all agency and power in the post-merge. We'll be ranking by how hard these Survivor players dropped off, starting with players whose fall from grace was gradual and ending with players who just flew off a cliff. So put on your turtleneck, name your son Colby, and take your inevitable seat at Final Tribal Council as we take a look at 5 Survivor players who ran the pre-merge, but who fell apart in the post-merge. At number 5 is Carla in Survivor 43. I think most people would agree that Carla's best game was played pre-merge. Unlike a lot of players we'll get to soon whose games flew off a cliff in a single vote, Carla's game was a slow slide down from the top. It's impressive how much power Carla had on Coco. I think she played one of the best pre-merge games of the new era. On Coco, Carla, Cassidy, and James firmly formed the power structure of the tribe, but Carla had the best connections of anyone. Not only did she have that main alliance, but she also had an idol in hand, and Gio, and to a lesser extent Ryan, still thought she was on their side, giving Carla multiple options. Gio trusted Carla so much he even eagerly showed her his knowledge as power advantage like 10 seconds after getting it. Always a good idea to show someone with an idol your advantage, which allows you to steal said idol. There's no question Carla ran Coco, but her post-merge performance makes me wonder, was Carla super good early on, or were Gio and Ryan just really bad? At the merge, Carla slowly lost steam with each vote, giving up her closest ally James at the split tribal council for no real reason, putting herself at risk of losing her 2 closest allies of this round, and then getting duped into targeting Cassidy, leading to the breakdown of her other strong relationship in the game. A breakdown which turned so nasty that Carla threatened Cassidy by holding her jury vote hostage and promising to poison the jury against her. All's fair in love and Survivor, but yeesh. Then Carla gets tricked again into playing her idol at the Cody vote, leaving her vulnerable at Final 5, where she's voted out unanimously. By the finale, Carla's a long way from the power player who was running Coco. I want to say that Carla just got outplayed by really good competition at the merge, like Jesse and Cody, but she was also getting bamboozled by a 19-year-old pet cremator, so, you know. My armchair analysis is that Carla feels really comfortable only when she's in control, but her lack of agency and better competition at the merge frustrated her and made her rely on emotionally manipulative tactics and get caught up in petty squabbles that she didn't need to and which didn't advance her game. Or maybe she was just always like this and she cleaned house early on because Gio makes Sammy look like Jesse. At number 4 is Denise in Survivor Winners at War. I'd say Denise easily had the least pre-merge power of anyone on this list. She was on the outs on original Sele and at risk of going home post-swap, but Denise had one massive move she could hang her hat on. She took down the Queen. A bad swap sent Denise and Jeremy to DeKalb, where they were outmatched by Tony, Kim, and Sandra if the vote was gonna go down along tribal lines. But Sandra overplays her hand here a bit with a crypto-esque overvaluing of fire tokens and offers Denise a deal she can't refuse. For the cost of 1 fire token before tribal and 1 fire token after, Sandra will give Denise her immunity idol if Denise will idol out Tony or Jeremy. Sandra, you know these things buy, like, peanut butter, right? I mean, this is literally the worst trade deal in the history of trades. At the cost of not even 2, but 1 fire token, Sandra bought her own elimination in the game because Denise just idled out Sandra with her own idol and didn't even have to pay up that last fire token. I love her, but this is the Survivor equivalent of investing your life savings in Beanie Babies in August 1999. Denise in Winners at War is the definition of peaking early. She had this to her credit. Then what? She struggled to find her footing in the early post-merge, and later she sorta joined up as the 4th wheel in the Tony, Sarah, Ben alliance. By the finale, she looks checked out and she can't keep pace with the game, and she just seems resigned to the fact that Tony or Sarah is going to win the game. Overall, Denise played a solid game this season, but seemed content to hang her hat on a move that took place on day 16. Almost a whole new era's season length away from Final Tribal, and that's just not a winning play in an all-winners season. And at the end, she looked completely over the whole thing. She didn't throw in the towel as hard as Ben, but she threw it in. Like the towel's not in the hamper, but it's dangling on the edge of the hamper. At number 3 is Ryan in Survivor Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. Okay, we've had Cochran, we've had Girl Cochran, we've had Robot Cochran. What about Republican Cochran? Alongside Devin, Ryan gleefully ran the initial Hustlers camp like he was slashing funds from Social Security. Look, I know it's like we have JT and Steven at home, but Ryan and Devin basically decided who would hustle their way to pre-jury Ponderosa together, and everyone on the Hustlers camp thought they were on their side. Post-swap, Ryan connected with Chrissy after revealing to her that he gave her a cross-tribal idol in the first round, solidifying their bond, and again, Ryan finds himself in charge. Now, in the swing vote position, he ultimately sides with Chrissy and JP against Allie and Rourke. Ryan's pre-merge game is genuinely super solid. He was never at risk of going home, and always in the know with 3 super tight allies. And then the merge. At the merge, the former Heroes and former Hustlers team up to take down the former Healers, and sidebar, but God, I hate this theme. You guys seriously want themes back? Anyways, after pagonging a healer or 2, the majority turned on Ryan and Chrissy by voting out JP and things like that. And Ryan in particular was never really able to recover his former glory after this blindside. Ben was playing double agent with them, feeding info back to the majority, so their plans were often foiled from within, and even as Ben became the primary target in the game, Ryan still had little agency, and at best just looked like Chrissy's lackey. And then his game ends with a whimper, being the first person dragged to Final 3 after the surprise introduction of Final 4 firemaking, where only Devin threw him a vote. Nowadays, I don't think being taken to Final Tribal looks so bad, but considering Ben cleaned house with the jury after objectively losing the game at Final 4, I don't think it's a reach to say this jury in particular put a lot of stock in the Final 4 firemaking. If only they'd put a lot of stock in turtlenecks. At number 2 is Romeo in Survivor 42. Pre-merge, Romeo had it all. He was running Ika, he was tight with Drea, he was in the skinny guy alliance with Zach, he was tight with Tori, Roxroy didn't hate him, he was Swathy's number 1. Romeo and Drea ran this tribe like the Navy. Romeo had arguably the most information and most power on Ika, he was the most insulated from elimination, and every major decision on this tribe had to be signed off by himself and Drea. But at the merge, Romeo's game completely tanked. From almost the second the tribes all came together, Drea began distancing herself from him and doing her best to throw him under the bus for seemingly no reason. Drea dropped Romeo harder than Bruce name-dropped Kane, And even as the new majority imploded on itself after only a few rounds, Romeo never really regained his footing, going from out of the loop to perennial backup plan to the worst thing that can happen to you game-wise: complete irrelevance. By the high vote, Romeo's a complete afterthought. No one is telling him plans, and if they do, it's last minute and probably a misdirect. In Big Brother parlance, he's furniture. Maybe not even that. I mean, that's a disservice to some pieces of furniture. This chair from Redemption Island was involved in many strategic talks. Romeo was not. By the time he plays a fake idol at Final 5, everyone else is just giving him a pat on the back just for existing and breathing oxygen on his own. God, he doesn't even bother handing the idol to Jeff. He just throws it in the fire himself. Romeo made Final Tribal Council, and to give him credit, he did have a few wins along the way. He won Final Four immunity, and he was involved in the blindside on Omer, but he earned 0 votes against Marianne and Mike, and probably gets 0 votes sitting next to any combination of players going back as far as Chanel. It's a far cry from his early glory days on Ika. My God, he probably gets shut out by Tori and Roxroy. At number 1 is Sherry from Survivor Caramoan. No one in the history of Survivor has ever had so much power at the start of the game, and so little by the end. As one of the few actual fans on this alleged fans tribe, Sherry was calling the shots on Goda from the moment they hit the beach. She linked up with Shamar as her number 1, which in hindsight may be a bad idea. This was a guy who was so toxic at camp and such a morale suck that it almost certainly impacted this tribe's performance in the challenges. Crazy thing is, Shamar's not even the most toxic person on this cast, and you could argue he's anywhere from the second most toxic to the 5th most toxic. Who cast this train wreck? Barnum and Bailey? Nevertheless, Sherry was at the top of this tribe, using Shamar and working with some of the other actual fans to neuter the 4-person Hot People Alliance. Hey, they never said counting was their strong suit. Sherry was the main strategist on the so-called fans tribe, which, granted, is actually not that big of a flex, but still. At the merge, Sherry's inducted into the Stealth R Us Alliance, and here's where her game craters. Usually, saving yourself at the merge and working with the dominant alliance for a round or 2 is a good thing, but Sherry faded into the background and surrendered agency for safety. Seriously, that's all there is to report. As the newest and least essential member of Stealth R Us, Sherry was often courted by players on the bottom to flip the game on its head and to make a move against someone, anyone. But Sherry always opted to play it safe and stick with the majority, all the way to the final 3, where she takes one of the bigger beatings in Final Tribal history. She's either ignored or completely lambasted for her weak and passive post-merge game. Now, personally, I don't think floaters in glass houses should throw stones, but Sherry really went through the ringer here. Worst of all, though, Philip formally revokes her membership to Stealth R Us. Sherry expectedly gets 0 votes. Ironic. Sherry wanted to drag Shamar to the end as a goat who couldn't win, but ultimately, she was dragged to the end as a goat who couldn't win. She got completely pummeled, but hey, on the bright side, at least no one made her take her teeth out. Got nothing else for ya. Don't throw in the towel like these players. Like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.